Absolutely.
So what are we doing here?
So we'll walk you through some tastings. I don't know, I'll do a couple, maybe Mike can do a couple. We do this a little differently. I think we captured the same kind of that message though. But a little bit about our labels. So I think as people come here, I think they might want to know what are our labels about, and how and why do we come up with the concepts that we then put forth on a bottle. I think our Silver Screen label, our Silver Screen vodka, is one of our first products we developed. It's pretty self-explanatory, but we celebrate our building here with this label. So this is all about for lack of a better term, I guess, an ode to our movie theater roots here in celebrating our building. On the back of our label, and you'll find this on all of our labels, there's a little copy here that Mike and I put together. And in this case, Silver Screen, the brand is all about celebrating what it's like to go see a movie on the big screen, especially something you want to see. Godzilla's coming out, and I'm so taken back to my childhood. And my daughter, 7 years old, saw that the other day. She goes, "I want to go," and I'm like, "Can she go see that?" Yeah, sure. That might be our first father-daughter, kind of nice. Big blockbuster movie. But that will be captivating. It'll have you on the edge of your seat. It might have you reliving some of your childhood past memories from watching Godzilla on television. But we use that analogy to describe Silver Screen with what it's like for Mike and I to be back there making spirits, and it's captivating, it's exciting. There's a little bit of mystery, like this poteen, this corn whiskey, or this whiskey that we were talking about earlier, the Irish style whiskey. We don't really know where it's going to come out. So there's some mystery there, and there's some excitement. So that's what Silver Screen vodka is celebrating. But the spirit itself is a wheat-based wheat-based vodka, and I get whiskey on the brain.
It's hard not to.
And the goal here with this product for Mike and I was to produce a vodka that reflected the grain I like to say, from which it came. So in this case, it's a winter wheat vodka, and we wanted to capture wheat characteristics. So whether that be on the nose, whether that be on the palate, and we have done some of that here. So as I walk you through this tasting, what I'm going to try to do is point out a couple of characteristics that we think we are actually able to capture through this light distillation process to make our vodka. And the first one is going to be, and I'll just pour a little bit because I know you're working. The first one is going to be sweetness. So because we lightly distill and lightly filter this, we're actually able to hold on to that sweetness that is a natural quality of this grain. So you're going to find this on the front end of your palate. So what I tell people is you take just a little sip. This is not a shot. Just take a little sip, put it on the front end of your palate, front end of your tongue, and just hold it there for a mental 3 or 4 count before you slowly swallow back. And hopefully what you're left with is a little bit of sweetness. Now,
I can feel it getting sweeter as it sat there.
Yeah, like citrusy, kind of, almost like a tangerine or orange or something like that is what it feels like to me.
We by law you could add, if you wanted to, some citric acid to it. We don't do any of it, but the kind of the natural sweetness and the clarity of it, I think we've had folks mention it kind of lends itself towards that citrus.
Yeah, it definitely comes out. I mean, it's almost like a zest or something for a tangerine.
By doing that, it just kind of even leaves the flavor in your mouth. So just slamming it back and not appreciating it.
That's right. And so when we walk folks through a tasting here, that's what we want to. If I use the analogy of a wine tasting, we don't want you to throw this back. We actually want to put this on different places in your palate and actually start to pull out the different flavor characteristics of the vodka, which is, or any of the spirits that we serve, which is totally different than if you're going to a bar and just having a shot.
Yeah, because that's the usual thing for vodka. Vodka, throw cranberry juice in that, mix, swirl it around, and then you'd be done with it.
But even then, it's got flavor. It's got something to it. A lot of your vodka is just dead almost.
A lot of people, when they think of vodka, they think is kind of the most neutral thing that you can make. Distill it a dozen times, filter it 7 times, whatever. To all of those things are intended to remove character out of it. And so what those attest to is the purity of it, which in some cases is a good thing. But there are lots of people out there who make vodka that has no flavor and nothing kind of to it. We didn't want to make that. We wanted to make vodka that maintained some characters, some vodka that kind of stood up on its own a little bit.
Yeah.
So we run it through the still with that in mind, trying to hold on to some of that character.
Well done.
That's interesting.
So
That's good.
So the other little nuance, if you will, or character of the vodka is post-filtration. We have to filter this. Well, we don't have to filter it over a carbon source, but we do filter it over a carbon source. Ground up toasted coconut shell is a pretty common media to filter vodka over. And we use that, but we have a gravity-fed system, and it's a very brief interaction of our spirit with the column. And it removes a lot. It removes a lot of the wheat aroma, removes a lot of the wheat sweetness, but it gives back a little bit too, a little bit of mouthfeel, a little bit of viscosity, and folks typically find this in the middle of their palate. So if you take another small sip and put it in the middle of your tongue and just kind of mouth the vodka a little bit, you'll see that it has a little bit of texture maybe, but it has a little bit of mouthfeel. And the other analogy I use to kind of pull that out, if my words don't help you there, is that if you chill this or chill a spirit, whether it be in the freezer or the refrigerator, as the water starts to freeze, you get a little bit more viscous.
Yeah, it'll feel a little more oily.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we're going after here, but it's very light. But if we compare pre and post filtration, we know we get that quality in the vodka. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is.
But the vodka, going back to what Mike said about producing something that's pure, this vodka, well, we think it's sippable on the rocks. It is clean enough that it would stand up very well in classic cocktails.
Sure.
It's a nice background.
Well, I was just thinking both. Like, it is something you could just sit there and drink on the rocks, and that's usually not how I think of vodka.
Yep.
But I was also thinking as these flavors are going on, it would be a good mixer too.
Yeah.
You just try it with all different. It's like rediscovering anything you've ever mixed vodka with. Try it all over again.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, even too. I mean, if you mix it into something that did have a citrus component to it, you could almost take that component out.
Yep.
And have it just that stand up.
Yeah.
And I also I want to point out on the back of the bottle, you have the bottle date on it.
Oh yeah.
And that's really cool.
Yeah, every single one of our bottles, when we do the bottling process, we invite people to come in. We call them bottling parties. We give out, post it up on Facebook, invite people to come, get a group of 12, 14, 15 people here, and then have them help us get everything done. Assembly line style, pizza and cocktails, and put them to work.
I'm doing that at Amazon.
And then ultimately get everybody an opportunity to kind of sign some of the bottles. Actually, this one I signed. But I think that's kind of a neat way, add a signature to it. You know who was responsible for getting that.
And if you're a collector, people just collect the bottles.
Oh, we've had a number of those.
That's fantastic for it.
It's also another way for us to, kind of immerse ourselves into the community again. So we invite those community members in as enthusiasts, people that want to see kind of behind the scenes what goes on. So
sure, and you go into a liquor store and it's every bottle looks exactly the same as the next. Where this, it has character to it.
Yeah, and something went into it more than just a machine rolling it out. And
And all those imperfections are built right into that. So the labels are sometimes not totally straight.
Well, that's what you want.
Exactly.
To a point. Yeah. So, you can decant into here. That's what that's for. And I'll set up the next one, and then I'll let Mike do the other two. So our corn whiskey, which we released, this has been about 2 weeks. Celebrates Delaware history. So our Old Cooch's corn whiskey, is really all about an area that Mike lives very close to, Old Cooch's Bridge, and so we have the Revolutionary War cannon and the millstone there for the mine that's in proximity there.
The mill.
The mill. Thank you. So this corn whiskey, so that's the story in the back. This celebrates all our Delaware history. Again,
because where there's a mill,
there's a still.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the corn whiskey, much like the vodka, we wanted to capture that corn essence. So this has a mash bill that has, like, I don't know, 93% or so corn.
92.7.
And 92.7% corn. And it is number 2 dent corn right here in Smyrna. I mean, it's local corn.
Wow.
The rest is malted barley, so we get that conversion of those starches into sugar. So the goal here, much like the vodka, was to capture a whiskey that reflected that grain. And so hopefully when you nose this, you'll smell corn, you'll smell roasted corn. When you taste this, you'll get some corn sweetness on your palate. This is not our version of moonshine. This is a much more narrow...
God, I hope so. We were just saying, we watched the show Boardwalk Empire.
Oh, yeah.
And when the final episode came on last season, we said, let's get some corn whiskey and we'll sit around and do some shots and, watch. There's something to do. So we got something from the liquor store, it's in the jar.
Yeah, right off the bat, it's not the mason jar, so that's...
So I said, I'll be interested to try this to see. I hope it's not that.
No, this should not be that for you.
The response we get from a lot of people is, I didn't expect it to be smooth. But it has a lot of flavor to it, and so a lot of people they have they're either expecting fire in a bottle kind of moonshine type of stuff, or they're expecting it to taste like aged whiskey, something that has maybe spent a couple of years in a barrel.
Sure.
It's neither of those things. It is a kind of a fresh crispness that is new make whiskey. But it's not like the overpowering strength that you would think of from moonshine.
Right.
So the idea here is that it's something that we could use it in cocktails. And in place where you use whiskey in cocktails, it does very, very well. But it also is really interesting and creative in a lot of other cocktails where you might not think to use whiskey, where you might be using it in place of vodka or rum or something like that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because that whole thing evolves over time. I mean, the way cocktails are built, and we're discussing the way White Russian was, how that's changed over time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And gin, that's the same thing. How that's converted through different iterations.
So nose this, and we'll see what you think.
Smells good. And is there any particular place where let it sit in the tongue? Or?
I mean, the same process that Ron described is usually a good kind of...
I like spreading it across the entire palate, so taking a small sip at the beginning and starting in the front and letting it work its way back so you can pull out, bitter notes as well as sweet notes and everything in between. So,
Much better.
Yeah.
Much better.
So this is very different than the vodka, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more of a profile. It's
it's more hearty. Like
it keeps hitting you. Like it's getting more flavor even just after I swallowed it. Like it's...
You have more of the corn.
Exactly.
Resolve.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, production process for making whiskey. The front end, you're doing the same thing. You're converting starches into sugars and then fermenting those sugars. But in order to make a corn whiskey, it has to be distilled at below 80% alcohol, so 80% or 160 proof and below. What that pretty much guarantees is that you're going to maintain a lot of character to it, compared to something like vodka that's distilled at 95% alcohol, which is very, very pure just to begin with. So it's just that the difference in the production process yields a different character. But but by keeping it close to 80% when we're distilling it, we can call it whiskey, but we can also not make it so it's just really rough, kind of gruff spirit.
That's good. It's got some heat to it, but there's flavor coming out on top of it.
Yeah, this is a little different than what you would put in a barrel.
Yeah.
So this particular product, so that when we pull this off the still, we recognize that it's not going in the barrel. So some of those things that we might have left behind to soften in a barrel over the span of 2-3 plus years, whatever it takes, we pull those out. So we wanted to have something that once we bottled it, it certainly could be tasted at the bar like this, neat.
Sure.
And then would do well in a cocktail without having all those rough edges. So that certainly was the goal. Now where do we go with this? Well, we think much like moonshine, we think we'll take advantage of some seasonal local fruit as it comes available, and we'll start to experiment with strawberries, and we have a friend doing some local honey, and there's quite a few honey growers in there, or what do you call it, growers? People don't grow honey.
Apiary?
it is an apiary, but
Honey thieves.
Well, there's a few folks in the area that harvest their own honey.
yeah, I actually meant to ask you about that earlier. Because what was it, 2 weekends ago? I had him try Baron
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So that honey-based
Yep.
stuff, and that's that to me. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
there's nothing about it. It's so interesting.
Sure.
It's so different from.
Yep. And you know, you use different honeys that have different flavors. We played around with different honeys for different or syrups and things like that. You know, really robust honey versus a really kind of light honey, and it's just one of those places to be really creative.
It'd be neat to see, have honey from an apiary near to the corn.
Yep.
Yeah.
And see how that differs from,
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
closer to the apple orchards, maybe a little
Yep.
further south.
Sure.
Or something
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
So we'll do stuff like that. So honey and fruit, peaches, maybe in the fall we'll do. Maybe if we can figure out a production methodology for like a roasted pumpkin, and do something like that.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
We'll see. We'll see. But we'll do a few of those. We won't do a lot. We won't do. If we do any flavors, and it goes even for our vodka, it would be all natural stuff. That's and again trying to maintain that local connection.
Sure.
In terms of the raw ingredient.
And it's kind of a thing that I find just is overlooked too with just liquor in general, is that just the green liquor, stuff that is made and it comes out right there. And everybody seems to want something that's aged. Like that seems to be the most popular thing, rather than like grappa or something else that would be fresh out of the still. I mean, there's something to be said for that too.
Yeah, there absolutely is, and there end up being different products. I mean, we have whiskeys that we've tried where you try, new make whiskey versus one that's been aged for a few years. And sometimes the one that's been aged for a few years is, substantially better or substantially different. Sometimes the new make is fantastic.
Right.
And you wouldn't want to do anything to it because it is its own kind of unique spirit. And I mean, the truth is that, for hundreds of years, the only aging that anything got was the time it took to get it from the still to the bottle to the person's jug. So there wasn't a lot of aging involved in these processes. People think, bourbon is this traditional. Like the aging process was, a barrel as long as it took to get to market.
5 mile aging process. They call it.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, yeah, I guess if you know when to stop, it doesn't need more, doesn't need less.
Yep. And then some things need aging and some things don't. And it's just kind of fun to play around.
Yeah, that original aged bourbon, that was the barrel that was forgotten.
Yeah.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah. So
This one's been sitting around for 2 years. It's probably bad.
It's going to be poison or vinegar.
Yeah.
So I'll let you switch.
Yeah, 2 for 2 so far.
Yeah, that's great. That did justice to the corn.
Okay, so this one is. Yeah, let's pour a couple
I would
refreshments.
switch cups because
Okay.
So this one is our Candy Manor gin, and we talked a little bit earlier about different types of gin. So technically a dry gin, but we make what we call an American style or a Western style gin, or technically sometimes people call it contemporary. And what that really means is it's the difference between a lot of that juniper flavor as a predominant characteristic of it versus a lot of the other botanicals that are neat things. So, most gins are made with juniper and a long list of type of things. But juniper is the thing that people think of when they taste it. And by law, you have to have juniper in your gin. Ours, we want people to notice the juniper, but we want them to notice and remember some of those other flavor characteristics. So that's what makes our gin a little bit different. Just as with the other products, the story on this one is kind of fun. So Candy Manor. It's one of these little tales that we heard, small town lore type thing when we first came to Smyrna, that the candy store a number of decades ago here in town used to sell a little bit of companionship as well as confectionaries. So
Sugar with the sugar.
yeah, exactly. So wonderful tale. I'm sure that there's plenty of truth and fiction involved.
As
in it.
any good story is.
Yes, of course. So and we thought, well, that would be really a kind of a fun thing, a little tongue-in-cheek of look at that. And gin is one of those great products. For the longest time, actually a lot of American history, gin was the most popular spirit that was drank in the United States. There was a time when it was rum. There was a time when it was whiskey. But that time when it was whiskey is actually pretty recent. But pre-prohibition, through prohibition, all gin was really the drink.
Oh yeah.
And so we wanted to kind of play with that a little bit and have a bit of fun with it. And this one, actually, we're very excited. This one won a silver medal at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition.
Wow, really?
Oh, congratulations.
So for our first, right out of the gate, we hoped that we had something interesting. We didn't kind of expect to win anything, but very excited to kind of win a silver for that.
That is great.
Yeah.
And that was just this year?
Yeah, yep, 2014, about a month ago.
Yeah, we don't even have the medal yet.
Yeah. Though
It's in the mail somewhere.
Yeah, though we did get all the little stickers. So.
Yeah. It's still in that box.
Yeah. Amazon will show up with that someday. So what you're going to notice when you taste this one, and using the same kind of process, a little sip in the front of your tongue is where you're going to likely pick up some of the juniper and the peppery flavor, juniper and coriander. Towards the middle of your tongue, you'll find a little bit of kind of citrusy, almost maybe minty characteristics. We don't use mint in this, and we don't use any citrus, but we do use lemon balm, which kind of has both of those flavors in it.
Sure.
And then I think what most people find to be the most pronounced is lavender. There's a lot of lavender in the nose and in the finish on this.
That's where it hits you. It was on the tongue. It was one thing.
Yeah.
And when you swallow it back, it was
yeah.
completely different.
Yeah. And then as as you try another little sip or two, one of the things that kind of sneaks in there at the end is a little hint of anise. And that actually comes from the sweet goldenrod, Delaware's state herb.
That's the goldenrod. That's what makes it.
Yep. So it gives a little bit of that licorice kind of anise flavor to it. So
It reminds me a lot of almost like a chamomile tea, or I don't know.
yeah, we've had folks ask if there's
it's
chamomile
interesting.
or a variety of other kind of things in it. We've got a pretty simple set of stuff that we use.
That's great.
Some of them are traditional things, and then some things a little bit different, like the goldenrod and lavender. Those are two things.
It's a flavor, it's a smell, and it's a feel
Yeah.
as well when you're taking it back.
Yep.
That's wow.
Yeah.
You saved me on gin.
You got a convert there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another convert.
Gin is one of those great things, and we'll do a number of other our barrel resting gins, our barreled gins are a little. They're a different style of gin. They're a little bit more of that juniper forward gin, because then they pick up some different character from the wine barrels that they've been sitting in.
The forgotten barrel.
Yes,
gin.
those forgotten barrel gin. And then down the road we're going to play with some of the other styles, some Dutch style gin, which is called Jenever. Has a little bit more natural sweetness to it. So some fun to be had with gin. Kind of cool product.
And also goes back to kind of Delaware roots and Delaware history.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of Dutch history here in Delaware.
Oh yeah. It's extreme.
Gin, which is called Dutch courage. So.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a fun one.
That's great.
That was good. That was very good.
Yeah, and then we've got a couple of our soon to be done experimental things. Will probably switch.
Oh, experimental.
So, a new set of cups.
Oh, you don't have to switch, but
Oh,
No,
okay.
I'll-
Yeah,
I'll play it.
there's two.
So
We got playing the rats. Like, what do we got?
yeah.
Right on these fools.
Geez, so this is something that we've got, the ye old brown bag. We've been working with Eric Young from the Young Bean Cafe down here in Clayton.
I live
Right next door.
Oh,
Awesome. The house
Yeah.
next door.
Well, not
two
not
houses.
exactly next door, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So,
yeah.
well, you may
Occupied
have
house.
smelt his company or his coffee roasting.
Oh sure. Yeah, I park right next to his coffee roaster.
Yeah, there we go. So we're working with Eric to kind of pick out a bean and a roast and
Oh,
and
cool.
a grind for
Oh,
this
wow.
and making an espresso vodka. So it's based after his beans and our vodka, and kind of an infusion of those two things.
That's a true collaboration of local businesses.
Absolutely.
You get two businesses in one there.
Yeah, yep.
To make something good.
Yeah, and we've had great fun. Kind of
The top.
this one sticks a little bit. So this one will be where the label has been kind of submitted to the government for approval. So the label's not ready yet. Thus the brown bag.
Oh, the label has to get approved.
Everything.
That's a whole process too.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, that's kind of an interesting thing.
Yep.
The whole, you don't think about it. You think, you just design a label, throw it on a bottle. It's not like that.
No,
There's a big thing that has to go through.
Yep.
Smell it.
I did.
When you nose, open your mouth. Because that will, so do it both ways.
Yeah,
Close your mouth.
I can
and
tell.
then open
I
your
had my
mouth.
mouth closed the first time.
You actually activate a lot more taste receptors by having your mouth open when you nose.
Wow, that's amazing.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
Because it shows that how many tastings you've been to.
Yeah.
It's a fun. This is kind of a cool collaboration. It's a little espresso.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I thought it was going to be like harsher than that, but it's.
Oh, no, that's-
It's a nice.
So the goal here, there are a number of kind of espresso vodkas or coffee vodkas on the market, and we sampled a lot of them, and what we found, for our palates is a lot of them are really just too sweet and uncoffee-like. So we said, well, if we're going to do this, let's really go after the coffee first and foremost, and that's why we spent so much time with Eric and trying to find the right bean, then the right grind, the right roast. We really did play with all those to get to this point. We wanted it to reflect the coffee first, so it'd be kind of a coffee lover's vodka.
Yeah, my wife would kill for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that definitely is. Yeah, same with mine. So it almost tastes like if you ever get the chocolate covered espresso beans and you chew them up and you get the flavor all over your mouth.
Yep.
That's exactly what I'm tasting. Is that being? It feels like it feels like I just ate one of those beans.
And that's great. That's great. That's exactly what we're trying to capture. Now we add back a little bit of inverted sugar to balance out a little bit of the bitterness, and it also helps bring out some coffee aroma. The sugar helps bring out some of that aroma.
But just
enough to do that. Not really enough to sweeten it up. We imagine the presentation on this in a cocktail, whether it be your chocolate martini or it would be some version of a mocha with this white Russian. So
perfect for that.
Yeah, we haven't really played with cocktails, but the test marketing we've been doing here at the bar has been very positive.
No, that's going places.
I've had people offer to just buy the bag, the bottle. I take that right now. I said I can't sell it. It's totally illegal. So, but that's well. Actually, we had a lobbyist here from the state of Ohio a few nights back, Saturday, and he left me his card. Wants a case.
Wow.
Said,
You're selling it already.
That's
what I'm telling you.
He's
This is gonna be
2
big.
months out. He said, I want a case.
Hit up the restaurants with this.
Oh, yeah.
For dessert.
Yep.
So it's surprising, with all the flavored vodkas out there, that we read a lot of industry news, and the question is, well, is that saturated? Flavor. You have a new flavor coming out every week. Has that been saturated? And I think where it's done well, people know. But
you can tell if it tastes like there's syrup just mixed in with it. And even if they're better ones, you usually still taste the vodka first, and then the flavor is the aftertaste. This, you're really tasting coffee. First and second.
Sure.
It's not.
It's the complete collaboration of those two things, both in and out.
Thanks.
That's nice.
Yeah, we're excited about this. This will be a fun one. And it's cool to get to work with Eric and a young bean to kind of put this together. So that's fun.
Great.
Yeah.
So then, if you got a little bit more time, we do one more thing.
Sure.
We have as much time as you guys do. We're off now.
Oh, okay.
We already did the commute.
There you go. So this is.
You can walk home.
I was just going to use the what I use for gin. That works well for it. So this is a real experiment because it's nowhere near. I think. Well, it may be close to production, but it's still got a ways to go.
We have submitted a formula.
We have submitted a formula for this, so we'll see. It'll be interesting to see the feedback we get when they read and wonder what the hell is Scrapple.
Scrapple, yes. Are you kidding me?
So
Now open your mouth. When
So-
you do this.
Oh yeah, it's true.
this is our attempt at making what we would call Scrapple or apple scrapple vodka.
Apple scrapple.
So we use Scrapple as well as a lot of the herbs and the spices that go into Scrapple,
Love Scrapple.
and some apples, and kind of mix it all together. And we've been playing with the recipe, get it into the still, and distill it. Try and get a little bit of that meaty characteristic.
I'm trying to like place a scent on it. So you're saying I'm hearing apples and Scrapple, but I don't smell either one.
There's you see if you pick it up a little bit when you taste. This is something where you're going to find a little bit more of those flavors in the taste of it. So the traditional kind of, I guess, spices and herbs that are used, a lot of sage, a lot of black pepper, caraway, some nutmeg. Those are like things that we found in a lot of recipes for Scrapple. So that's what we did, is we took those and we took some Scrapple and some and apples and stuff, and put it all together and put it in the still, and we're like, wonder what that's going to taste like. and we're like, wow, that doesn't taste too bad.
Yeah.
So
It's different. It's definitely different. I'm trying to...
we're thinking that
it's like peppery.
Yeah,
almost.
we think that this, if we can get this right, we'll play around with it a little bit more. It might be, good for
It's not
bloody
bad.
Marys.
It's not bad. But I think because I heard Scrapple.
Yeah.
It's
That's-
doing something up here to me.
It's a tricky. What we found is that most of the flavor in Scrapple is in the fat.
Sure.
Right? Fats, lipids are heavy molecules. You're not going to get those to travel through the distillation process very easily. So you're going to end up with some of the eau de Scrapple, the essence of Scrapple.
It'd be interesting to do with different types of sausage too.
Yes, we've talked a lot about doing that. So that, in
Portuguese
Delaware.
sausage, any of those dry.
Oh, I haven't thought.
sauces.
Yeah, my favorite Portuguese sausage. Yeah,
Linguiça.
Linguiça. Yeah. Now, but linguiça, it varies like Scrapple. So
It does.
My mom just brought me 2 different batches of linguiça down from Massachusetts when she was visiting.
You gotta find one of those original recipes from like the Azores or something. Get one of those.
Yeah.
See what flavors they had on the islands then. And
Yeah, because those are spicy, and again, as I think about those, they're very similar in terms of where you get those flavors. It's all they are very fatty. It's all in the fat.
Sure.
With some paprika and some other spicy. But where we go from here, we'd certainly like to make this again. We have some ideas that maybe if you caramelize the Scrapple, like what we did before is we took the Scrapple uncooked and essentially cooked it in a still. But if we pre-cooked it and perhaps caramelized some of the Scrapple, that we might be able to bring some of those flavors, the smoky aromas, those flavors across. We haven't. The other side of this is we could maybe kind of put this in a gin basket and try to extract flavors through vapor, much like we do our gin process. But we haven't played with that. It just
you get to clean that. Go right in, you get to clean it.
It might end up being a collaboration of both. Caramelize it, distill it with that, and then also have the basket with the herbs that to go through.
Pick it up a little bit.
But you're exactly right. I don't think there's a lot of strong Scrapple essence there. So if we didn't tell you that was Scrapple vodka, you probably wouldn't.
I would have leaned for some kind of pepper type of drink.
Yeah. So, but like Mike said, we'll probably do this again because we think there's a wonderful interest. Obviously, Delawareans, everybody liked to have a small bottle of Scrapple vodka, just for novelty.
Exactly.
Right?
Just have it on the
people come over. Hey, look at this.
Yeah. So we don't see any mass produced. These aren't 750 mils we're selling at a time.
And people won't feel so bad drinking in the morning. They can call it breakfast.
That
Scrambled
espresso
eggs.
vodka. Aside from the day off.
And that espresso vodka, like a piece of chocolate cake or something.
Yes. So I'm thinking.
Yeah. Well, soon. Hopefully, another month?
I submitted the labels right before you guys came in for the espresso vodka.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a chance to look at what the average time is now, but last time we had submitted labels, it was like 44 days for us to get through the system.
Or sometime in June we'll get approval. And then a couple weeks after that.
Well, hopefully we get approval in June. Usually they find something.
Yeah.
But if they don't find anything, we could get
a couple weeks till we get
early in June.
So is that all you're waiting for? Is the label approval?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as we have
bottles here, and then we'll have to. Once we get a label approval, then we can go to the printer and say print, and then you're looking at a couple weeks to get labels.
Yeah,
but
get everything and then have everything in house. And when we have the label approval, we can move forward. Then we'll do the first full scale production batch. So right now we've done test batches, and maybe before that we'll scale it up, and we'll work to get
rest.
Yeah, let it kind of sit for a couple weeks before we bottle it.
Sure. That's interesting too. I mean, where do you guys get your bottles from? Is there
these? Finding the right bottle is tricky. We talk to lots of people to get our bottles. So the bottles that we use for Candy Manor and Silver Screen is actually comes from a company called Savor Glass. They're a French company. So those are coming out of France. The bottles that we're using for the old Cooch comes out of Missouri. I think so. It's an American bottle. And we'll probably have a few different bottles down the road as we like different things where we think a different bottle kind of showcases that spirit better.
Sure.
But there's a lot of bottles manufactured in Mexico, a lot in China. Quality issues and things like that. So we just got to find the right ones that fit our needs.
Right, and so they can meet your needs.
Yep, absolutely. And we're not buying. It'd be easy to have somebody meet our needs if we were buying, shipping containers at a time of bottles.
Exactly.
But we buy a pallet or a couple of pallets at a time.
So it's harder to get them the smaller you get them.
Yeah. I mean, there's some of the bottles. One of the companies that I was looking at trying to get bottles for another potential product, the minimum that they'll sell you is 8 pallets. Of certain bottles. Some bottles they'll sell you 1 pallet, but some of the ones
so it limits your selection overall.
Unless you can afford to drop 10
And
grand.
you're looking at anywhere from 800 bottles to 1,000, just over 1,000 a pallet. So,
wow.
Depending on the bottle size.
Yeah, so you could easily spend $1,000 or more per pallet. So.
Cool.
Yep.
Challenges of a small business.
There are many.
The more we sell, the more we can buy. So that's that's the good thing.
Yep.
If it continues to roll out that way. But the grappa and the barrel aged gin, those are being 375s. We'll have. I really wanted to have those out this week, but I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know if we'll be able to get that bottle. But we have the labels here. The spirits all ready to go. Need a few more hands. One more time.
Good combination of both.
So that's about it.
That's fantastic.
So we're off to a good start.
I would say. I mean, it's a great place.
I mean, I think the biggest obstacle you have to get around is just getting people in, because once they're in here, just from what we've seen, they're going to love it. The atmosphere is great, the taste is great. It's once you get them in the door, you win.
Yeah.
And then word of mouth is going to spread.
Yep. Same problem we're having.
No, I think you're right, and that is the challenge bringing them in. So, but we have we're slowly growing our base of evangelists, if you will. A lot of people are excited about what we're making, and about the building here, and about our story. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting from the story on.
You can count us among those. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool.
We'll do what we can. This is great.
Well, who knows how many followers you'll pick up from us. Once we post links on this.
Sure,
Look, see even here.
Yeah, they're rolling.
Driving by, checking it out. You must get that all day, right?
We get a lot of drive-bys. We have not seen an accident yet.
It'll happen. Give it time.
I'm surprised it hasn't happened. But yeah,
I'm guilty of it.
Right
essentially they stopped, right? So they're stopping in on a state road.
So that is grappa.
That's not. Oh yeah, that is cut for bottles.
That's ready to go. So it's a little bit under 37% alcohol, so 75 proof. But that's distilled from the skins and seeds and stems from the wine pressings out at Harvest Ridge in the fall.
Pain in the butt. I don't know if we're ever gonna make this again.
Oh, we will make it again.
Really?
It's such a pain to clean the still like this. For months we were finding seeds.
See? Isn't that pretty tasty?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah, see?
You like that?
Not a fiery asshole.
Wow.
Let me try this.
Yeah. It's a pretty tasty little brandy.
I could drink that all day.
Have you been down to Harvest Ridge yet?
No, we haven't been down there. It's on my list, but
Okay.
I haven't
Yeah, so
contacted them yet.
yeah, we do a lot of work with Chuck and his family, and they gave us a call one day right after we got set up and said, "Hey, we just pressed reds. You interested?"
Yeah.
We said, "Well, good. If we can get it here, we'll take it."
Yeah.
And little did I know it was going to take me months and months.
The stuff I had, I
to
paid
clean.
$80 for the bottle.
Ooh, yeah.
And
Oh, you have some really nice
well,
bland.
well, I tried. It was horrible. But this, it's not as hot. I mean, the stuff I had before, it was hot all the way down through your chest. Your chest was on fire when you were done. And this also has a much better taste.
Yeah. I'm pretty pleased with it. I've got some really good grappas, and I've had some pretty.
Oh no, that's good.
That's the first crop I've had.
Yeah. Well, see, now you're ruined.
That's great.
So,
I'll be back.
Yeah, it was good.
And I don't have a palate, so I can't really comment. What we've done though is we've taken Mike's collection and we just kind of did some blind tastings with ours thrown in there
Sure.
and try to figure out
Where it fits.
not what was the best, but kind of where these are in terms of what seems to be more palatable.
Right.
So, and ours is kind of in the middle of what he had, so it's not the worst. But the winemaker down at Harvest Ridge, definitely interested.
Oh, that's great.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we're kind of focusing on from here north first to start, and then because there's some great restaurants I want to hit down further south. I mean, Rehoboth. I really like that. There's a Muse down there.
Yep.
God, I love that place.
I'll be stopping in there tomorrow.
Yeah. Harry Cameron.
Tomorrow's Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great place, great guy.
Yeah.
I mean,
And they do cool stuff, really cool stuff.
God, yeah. I was telling him, we got this big 11-course tasting menu thing you can do, and I did that last year for my birthday, and it was just fabulous. It was just great.
Yeah.
My wife couldn't handle it, but
Is that
she just
like
had
3
a chicken.
hours?
Yeah, really 3 hours an hour.
yeah,
She's drinking coffee and stuff. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's crazy.
That's what it is. People think of spirits as like sitting in front of the fire, having a whiskey or a brandy, or they think of it as like just slamming cocktails out or like cheap drinks kind of thing. There is a wonderful kind of balance of really cool cocktails matched up with really great food, matched up with desserts.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a really cool spot there, and part of what we think our mission here is to introduce people to that our kind of tagline, like unleash your palate, is really all about like think about this differently, because it's not just what you always done with spirits. There's room to play around with, and so stuff like this or the gins, things that we're playing around with, those are like just ways to introduce people to something new. Maybe it's delicious, maybe it's not, maybe you love it, maybe you hate it, but maybe we never make it again. But it's something cool to try.
Yeah. There's no reason why those things only need to be paired with wine.
Yeah.
There's no reason why they can't be paired with.
And there's no reason why your choices of interesting things at the liquor store is what other kind of candy they figured out how to put into vodka. Butterfinger vodka.
Yeah, there's a market for that.
Yeah, there is.
That's not our target.
No, it's not. But I think
So
maybe the Butterfinger market people will turn into
Painted Stave.
Yeah, well, maybe that will
my
be.
only complaint is the Butterfingers get stuck in your teeth.
All the time.
You gotta clean it. Just like the grappa, you gotta clean it for months.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be delicious. Gotta get the guys down.
Only 60 bottles of this, though.
Wow.
And
What are you charging a bottle?
I haven't figured that out.
I just told you $80 is worse than that, so.
Yeah.
Probably will not be $80.
If you factor in pain and suffering, it could be quite a bit. But
well, so the story, so you can fully appreciate why we only have 60 bottles is 1,500 pounds or so is what of the wet slurry of skins and seeds and stems that we started with. And in the end, we got like 6 gallons.
Wow.
You know, through, I don't know, that was 2 distillations.
Oh.
3
of the stripping runs,
well, we did
ran
3 stripping runs.
3 stripping runs
And
plus a final distillation. So
Yeah.
4 total distillations plus. Yeah,
A lot of cleaning.
all the cleaning. Had to borrow their pump because our pump couldn't handle this stuff. So Chip had to run back out here with his pump the next day, and so because we don't have a pump that was designed to pump skin.
Who
does? I mean,
Wineries do.
Yeah.
It's $15,000.
You know, we sing a sad song, but it actually taught us a lot.
Oh, yeah, we learned a
learning
lot.
our system.
Yeah.
It's just the first thing we ran through our system.
Oh,
we were
okay.
going to make mistakes anyway. We didn't make any. We didn't burn the place down or anything like that. But we learned about what not to do in the cleaning process.
How to clean our pumps, how to clean our still. We learned a lot.
So,
it's good lessons we had, especially early. Like,
yeah. But this was not, and our still's not really set up to do grappa. I mean, there are much simpler systems that are well set up to make a grappa if we were going to make it on a regular basis.
Sure.
But, our eyes got big when we free grain, free raw material.
That's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
That's
So, and then the label we did, much like Eric's collaboration with the espresso vodka. We've created a label that kind of melds the Harvest Ridge winery with us. So we tell that story about how we've come together to make this grappa. So we're all about that cross promotion of business, and it's fun. It's the bottom line, really.